First is, how does regulation affect affordable private schools? I think they affect a lot, especially with the new RT bill. There's going to be even more trouble, probably. We do not know. Somebody was saying, I think Nitin was saying, God is in the details, but I think it's the devil that's in the details. We are yet to see the devil. We've just seen the bill. There will be rules and regulations that will be framed by people who have never been teachers, who have never been edupreneurs, who have nothing to do with education, but people who are bureaucrats. Yeah? So they know more about education than you all do, I guess. Anyways, I think whether the RT becomes an act eventually when it's notified and what problems it will bring will be more or less akin to what problems we have now. The three key problems I see here is, number one, the legislations that regulate the private school sector are obsolete. For example, the Delhi School Education Act is from 1973. In 1973, I think Delhi did not even have 1/4 of the population it has now. We did not have the kind of migrant population. We did not have thousands of slums. We did not have even enough government schools. So the Education Act was primarily made to promote private schools in one sense. And at that time, to ask for 800 square yards of playground was realistic. But today, if you have 800 square yards in Delhi, you must be crazy to start a school. But that's what the regulation talks about. Plus, the regulation is not well structured. I was talking to the Director of Education the other day. We have this nursery admission problem. He said, Bala, the problem is I don't have any statutory powers. What can I do? But the court thinks I have the powers. So it keeps sending me directives. I keep telling the court, no, there is no power. But it says you have the power. But who is to tell my boss that I have the power? Because my boss will kick me out if I don't trouble these guys who are paying maybe big money for the campaigns. That's one. And two is the government's refusal to recognize that, like in any other sector, in the education sector also, you have a range of players. You have small players, you have big players, you have high value players, you have low value players. To paint them all with one brush and say this set of rules will govern you is ridiculous. How can you ask a school which is charging 10,000 rupees per month to pay the same salary to the teachers as a school which is charging just 250 rupees a month? It's not possible. How can you do it? And this refusal to recognize the simple fact has meant that somehow governments take this holy position. Education is good, public good, whatever, and you're not facing reality, which has resulted that you have thousands of unrecognized schools which are not even in the ambit of, in the legal ambit. So even if the government wants it, can't do anything about it. So now when you talk about affordable private schools, now you have two categories. Recognized schools, unrecognized schools. If you're unrecognized school, nobody can ask you any question. So even if you want to do something, if the government wants to set some minimum standards, it's not possible. And by not recognizing it as an industry, it has deprived thousands of schools from access to organized finance, access to organized knowledge inputs. Nobody wants to. I was a school administrator once, and when we wanted a loan, he said, "You laugh, you take a personal loan." Why? Because my bank says schools are in blacklist. I thought blacklist was for criminals. And the third is, any regulation that you see from the government is input-based, not output-based. You should have this big a classroom, this big a toilet, this big a window, and it doesn't talk about what you get as output. And there is a very strong discrimination between what a government school should have and what a private school should have. So a government school which runs from a tent will be recognized. An affordable private school which is not big, but since it still has a pop-up building, will still be unrecognized. I think these three are the key ways in which in India at least affordable private schools are affected by the regulatory framework. So how do we change this? What would be the best way to engage the government? I think we need to again here identify 3 problems that we will face when we engage the government. The first is the fear of change. Politicians are shit scared of change. They don't like change. You know, what the minister once told me, I know we all are traveling by ambassador, it's old technology, but it's running. Why get a new car and my driver doesn't know how to drive? It makes no sense. And there is a huge political cost to pay in changing. Why? Because your powerful interest groups, teacher unions. The government teachers are the ones who become electoral ballot agents. Don't forget. A party which is in the good books of the government teachers has a clear advantage. So if you go to Tamil Nadu and talk about, performance-based pay or accountability for these teachers, well, you are in the wrong place. And very powerful beneficiaries. 40,000 crores is the kind of money that the government spends, only the central government, every year on education. You can imagine. For every egg, if there is a 5% profit, what kind of money people are making? Yeah? I leave that to your imagination. And the third problem is we all are not united. We don't have any concerted effort. We all are bickering here, but once we go out, I don't know how many people will, after the speed networking, have any email exchange. So I think the solution, the way forward, the best strategy would be again 3. First of all, we all should know how the regulatory framework works, what kind of mechanism is followed by the government to make the legislation, the who, what, and when. Today, I've been getting a lot of calls from a local television bureau of Delhi television set asking, we want to fight about the nursery admissions. The government has issued a new advisory. And then I sent a mail to my office. They said they are calling us also, we are trying with the schools. The schools are saying they haven't, but they heard from other schools, so they have stopped admissions. Yeah? And then I got a call from one of the deputy directors of the education department. What have you been telling the media? We don't even know. In Delhi, if you have taken land because you're building a school at a subsidized rate from the government, then you have to reserve 15% of the places for economically weaker section, EWS. Even schools which have not taken are following this because they do not know that they didn't have to follow. So we should know, we should have the basic knowledge and then engage continuously with the government. We should know the right people, the right places, and then engage continuously as a partner rather than as a confrontationist. It's not possible. You will never be able to win over the government. You can only be realistic. Which means, my last point, which means that we need to make a concerted effort to change our image. Because if you take any newspaper, you will find that school owners are depicted as villains. Private schools, they charge huge amount of fees, exploitation of parents, exploitation of teachers. How come a non-profit principal is driving a Mercedes? All of that. I think that needs to be a good PR machinery set into motion, very practically speaking. And we'll have to become more fair, transparent, and appear also the same. I think if we do all of that, we will have better engagement with the government, and someday, hopefully, we will not have the threats over there. Thanks.